Will Smith performed the perfect legacy apology, and the system used it to bury him. In the wake of the 2022 Oscars incident, the most scrutinized 30 seconds of television in the 21st century, Will Smith followed the classic playbook of the golden era celebrity. He issued a formal written apology within 24 hours. He resigned from the Academy. He went on a spiritual retreat. He released a 6-minute high-fidelity video of deep, unvarnished accountability, directly addressing the harm caused and the remorse felt. He was vulnerable, he was transparent, and he was present. In the old model of fame, this is where the restoration begins. You own the mistake, you show the work, and the world eventually resets the clock. But for Will Smith, the clock didn't reset. It jammed. The paradox is this: Will Smith spent decades as the most likable man in the world, built on a foundation of total accessibility and a clean brand identity. When the crisis hit, he leaned into that same accessibility to fix it. Yet the more he apologized, the more the industry pulled away. While other stars have survived objective crimes and returned to the center with a fraction of the effort, Smith remains a high-premium liability. Projects were canceled, production companies took massive hits, and the $100 million golden boy was effectively priced out of the institutional center. The uncomfortable implication is that in the modern attention economy, the honest apology has become a structural error. For Will Smith, the victory was moral, but the defeat was systemic. He didn't fail because he wasn't sorry enough. He failed because he stayed too visible to be forgiven. When accountability fails to restore legitimacy, what are we actually witnessing? The apparent explanation for Will Smith's stalled recovery is a moral one. We tell ourselves the act was too shocking or that his public image was fake to begin with. We analyze his marriage or his emotional state, assuming the problem lies in the content of his character. We treat the ongoing rejection as a form of social justice, a collective decision by the public to hold a powerful man accountable. But that explanation treats the outcome as a moral victory. It assumes that if the apology had been better or the remorse deeper, the system would have welcomed him back. What if it's the opposite? What if his inability to reclaim his power is a high-fidelity response to how modern attention systems actually process risk? We need to move past the who of the Oscars stage and look at the how of the system. We have to ask, why does presence prevent the system from resetting risk? To answer that, we have to look at the machinery that turns transparency into fuel and remorse into engagement. In a world that runs on narrative cycles, Will Smith didn't stay in trouble, he stayed relevant. In the modern attention system, relevance is not a measure of approval, it is a measure of signal persistence, the algorithm's refusal to let a topic drop. And in the architecture of modern fame, that persistence is exactly what keeps the fire burning. To understand why this outcome feels so inevitable, we must name the single mechanism driving it, call it the redemption window. In the legacy media era, a celebrity could go away. There were no social feeds or 24-hour algorithmic cycles. If a star had a crisis, they retreated. This retreat allowed for a reset. During this period of absence, the public's attention shifted to something else. By the time the star returned, the window for redemption had opened. Because the original controversy was no longer an active signal, it was an archived memory. Modern attention systems, however, have effectively closed the redemption window through signal persistence. Because we no longer have a shared memory but a permanent archive, a controversy only dies when it stops being talked about. Will Smith attempted to fix a structural problem with a visibility solution. Every apology video and social media check-in functioned as a fresh log on the fire. By remaining visible to show he was doing the work, he inadvertently prevented the controversy from fading, which the system required to reset his risk. To an institution, the problem isn't that Will Smith isn't sorry. The problem is that he is still high frequency. Every time he appears, he triggers the original crisis in the algorithm's memory. In a system that rewards the absence of noise, he became the source of the noise by trying to quiet it. The redemption window only opens in the silence. By speaking, he kept it locked. In the logic of the redemption window, transparency is punished and silence is rewarded. Will Smith's career wasn't derailed by the slap, it was derailed by the half-life of the response. In the months following the incident, Smith provided the system with more analysis energy than the slap itself ever could. His vulnerability was converted into high-frequency data, reaction videos, think pieces, and sentiment analysis that confirmed he was still a live controversy. This constant input created a risk surcharge. For a major studio, casting Will Smith no longer meant hiring a Best Actor winner, it meant paying the price of a perpetual press cycle. He made it impossible for a studio head to say, "The world has moved on," because he was still right there, talking about it. Reversal at this stage is structurally impossible. By the time the Emancipation Press tour arrived, the system had indexed him as a permanent variable and a total loss in terms of brand safety. The institutions didn't fail to forgive him. They simply calculated that the cost of defending his return was higher than the value of his presence. He didn't miss the window because of a bad PR strategy. He missed it because he didn't realize that in the modern fame system, accountability is noise. Zoom out, this is an incentive structure, not a story about a single career. We focus on Will Smith because he is the most visible example of the failed reset, but he is really just a high-performing operator who hit a new cultural wall. Attention rewards the initial crisis because it fuels immediate engagement, but it punishes the repair because the repair keeps the crisis in the active feed. In this environment, redemption has mutated. It is no longer a moral state that you achieve through remorse. It is a timing-based permit granted only through absence. Institutions reward silence because silence is the only thing that allows for the necessary reset. If you are doing the work in public, you are still the source of the friction. We have built a system that prizes the permanence of the archive over the possibility of change. The failure we see is the sound of a system that has lost the ability to forget. We are left looking at the man who did everything right and realizing that in this era, the truth doesn't set you free, it just keeps the camera on you. When the price of redemption is the total disappearance of your name, the system will never forgive you as long as you are still trying. This is what the model fame system does. It doesn't seek justice. It seeks a return to quiet, and once you have been the source of the noise, you become the very obstacle the system is built to bypass. Redemption isn't about apology anymore, it's about timing. And once you miss the window, effort doesn't matter.